I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting. Thank you all for being here. Just a couple words about public comment. If you're here in our live audience, we have blue cards on the table. And just turn them in and we will call on you. If you're part of our Zoom audience, just raise your Zoom hand and I will also call on you. You have 3 minutes for public comment. I believe we will have a clock. If not, I'll do my best or have my colleague do the timing. And I'm being a little strict about cutting people off right at 3 minutes. And that's because the other night I cut people off for different topics. And so I'm trying to be consistent. Me, right. So I'll go ahead and start with public comment. W.E. Howard. And you can come up to the podium if you want. You want to be there? Oh, you don't want to go first? Okay. I will do you last. You want to be last? Okay. Pablo Aguilera.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pablo Aguilera. I'm the EDI partner in the district, a longtime teacher, a district alum, and community member. Black and brown staff in our district have always known and talked about how we have a shorter leash and a different set of standards that we are held accountable to than our white colleagues. It doesn't matter if you're a classified aide, a teacher, an administrator, or even a superintendent. We're seeing that now with the termination of Dr. Williams' contract, which has already been in motion for a while. The anti-Blackness of this district has always been strong, just as any Black student or staff. But this district has been especially unfair and discriminatory to Black women, especially Black women administrators. Dr. Williams deserves better than this. Our Black staff and students deserve better than this. Let's call it for what it is, another example of racism in our district. Holding people to different sets of standards is just that. The previous superintendent, Mary Stretchley, got 3 years. Leonides got a full term. We didn't even give Dr. Williams a fair opportunity and chance to do what she can do. The actions that are being done are unethical, immoral, and an injustice, but sadly, very commonplace in this district. That has to change. We need better than that. I'd also like to point out that we never received a vote total for Friday's decision on hiring a legal counsel. Was it 4-1? Was it 5-0? Was it 3-2? The general public should at the very least have transparency on the voting and who voted for what for that and moving forward. We need to know. This district can do better. We need to do better. To all the Black and brown students, but especially all the Black students that are watching this right now and are going to be going to school thinking they don't have any allies. Same with our Black staff, especially all the teachers that reach out to me in my office. You do have allies. You do have support. It might not seem that way right now, but you do. You know who's there for you. Feel free to reach out. We have to be working together and supporting each other in this time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Abby Corman. Who's doing the timing? Who's timing? We have an alarm going off, so we are trying to figure out what it is. What does that mean? Okay, now we will continue because the beeping has stopped.
Hi, my name's Abby Corman, and I've been a pretty consistent presence at board meetings for the past 2 years since our return to in-person instruction after the pandemic. I'm a teacher at Menlo Atherton, and I've been a community educator and voter in this community for over a decade. I'm disheartened to be here tonight with welcoming the new board with questions and skepticism instead of a thank you and a congratulations. In the week leading up to finals as a classroom teacher, I want to be and should be finishing grading and updating grades, preparing quality review lessons, and taking care of myself so I can show up for our students. Instead, not only have I needed to tune into 2 extra board meetings, but I've had to do extra work trying to piece together why we're even here. Why has this new board decided to hold multiple closed session meetings, resulting in an unprecedented series of 4 official board meetings in 1 week? These 2 special meetings are occurring before the public has seen either of our new trustees in action at a regular board meeting and before any board study session, retreat, or even introduction. Is there urgency around something that the public should know about? The community is left wondering and gossiping and worrying because of these first 2 decisions made by this new board to hold special closed session meetings not on calendar. I was under the impression the new board members campaigned on transparency and that all board members valued community input and communication. Well, the new board, of course, should be able to retain new counsel and review the superintendent's valuation. Why are these your first few actions? This feels as though the new board has decided, without taking input from the community, to reverse the direction of the previous board. The previous board congratulated and gave positive reviews multiple times after evaluation of our superintendent and even extended her contract through 2025, with 0 negative public comment ever in the 2 years I've been present at every board meeting. The rumors say you're here tonight to fire our new superintendent without any public calling to do so. If this is the case, I ask, how is this what's best for our students and our community? To have a leader who's championing equity for all students. How will a search for a superintendent mid-year help anyone? Whether or not this is the case, I end imploring you to think of not your intentions, but your impact this past week. I ask, how do these 2 closed-door sessions instill trust in you? What messages are you trying to send to your community? How will you address the harm you have already caused in your first 4 days as a new board of public servants in our community? Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Sarver.
Thank you. My comments were almost entirely just given. I'm here again to express my concerns over the unprecedented multiple special meetings inserted before the first scheduled meeting of the new board. An environment of secrecy and an ominous sense of impending dramatic upheaval have been brought to the board and district operations. Numerous members of the community and district staff have spoken at each of these additional meetings. I received several emails from district staff to the board before my Sequoia email was terminated today. The press has contacted me for an explanation of what was going on, which I declined. And the superintendent and staff have not been present for the public portions of either meeting, except for Mr. Beal here. President Dubois, I can understand your eagerness to demonstrate that you are now free to act unfettered of the perspectives represented by the 2 trustees who recently left the board. and a frantic need to manufacture meaningful change before the end of your year as president. However, it is deeply disturbing that you have chosen to do this to the detriment of Dr. Williams and the students, staff, and reputation of the Sequoia Union High School District. Although Dr. Williams will come out of this experience strong, resilient, professional, and welcomed in many great and deserving school districts, our students, staff, and community will have lost a great deal of confidence and trust in district leadership. By acting unilaterally to place these opaque meetings on the calendar before the new trustees have ever once professionally interacted with the superintendent, you must personally own the consequences that result. The board will be navigating through a significant period of public scrutiny and distrust, and district goals and achievements will be viewed with great skepticism. A great deal of tarnish has been applied to a district that has long been viewed as a shining star in the region. Please begin the slow and careful work of rebuilding from the damage that your actions have inflicted.
Thank you. Chris Thompson?
Chris Thompson, Menlo Park resident, proud parent of an MA graduate. Like those who've spoken before me, President Dubois, I am deeply saddened for the district by your handling of the first meetings of this board and the distrust you are sowing in the community. At this point, I can only reasonably conclude, as so many others have concluded, that it was the aim of the president and the vice president to remove the district superintendent. Now, I want to state clearly, I cannot assess whether there is merit to that action because I'm not party to that. But I have observed in the way that this is, in the way you've conducted business, that it has been handled in a reckless fashion, damaging to the district and possibly illegal. Alan and our teachers have spoken to that. That's the most important message. I want to raise a few questions of a more technical or legal character for the board. First, and Pablo mentioned this, California code requires a legislative body to report out of closed session what their action was, which you did on Friday, and also quote the vote or abstention on that action of every member present. You did not report out the vote as required. And while that information may not be dispositive, it might be helpful to the community to know how board members vote. And it still will be helpful for you to tell us, and I believe it is required. Second, can the board hire new counsel in closed session? It's my understanding this action should have been taken in public open session. Why is this important? In this way, there would have been the opportunity to hear what the public knows about this and comment and can inform your decision. I think particularly of the Los Lomitas residents who would have commented on the work with Mr. Whitlock, which he did with Trustee Ginn when Rich served on that board. That's important and appropriate testimony that you should have had before making a decision. Final point I want to make for you to consider is this. You will be electing officers on Wednesday. The board handbook refers to the ordinary rotation, that is from the vice president to the president and so on. I would suggest to you that this is not an ordinary time for the district and that you may want to consider who best can restore trust in the district when you choose that president. Thank you, board.
Thank you for your comments. Carolyn Coleman.
Hey, good evening. Again, I do come from a place of love. Thank you for listening. My name is Caroline Coleman. I'm proud to call myself an affinity leader that was led last year. I'm a mother, I'm a parent, I'm a teacher at Sequoia High School, and I'm also a voter in Redwood City. To be quite honest with you, my stomach has been in knots for the last 3 days. And I'm just, I know that I sent you all an email this morning letting you know I'd be here, that I felt just a really weird vibe at the last board meeting. And I was just making a joke, thinking, you're not getting rid of Dr. Williams. And I guess that's what's happening. I think it's important for me to state, even though there's mixed feelings from our SDTA about Dr. Williams, regardless of any personal feelings about our superintendent, this action by the board is just not good for the students or our staff. A mid-year dismissal and the upheaval it causes should not be taken lightly and should not be undertaken by individuals who have yet to work with the superintendent or without due process. This new board is showing us who they are at the moment, but I know they can do the right thing. That they will make decisions behind closed doors. Let's be transparent, please. Without input from the community, stakeholders, teachers, our students who deserve the best. Our students deserve the best investment in the best supports. And I don't know if we can support them if we take Dr. Williams away. Can you assure me and the students that we teach how justice will be served for them, how their voices will be heard? Can you assure me as a teacher, a mother, that our students will be seen, heard, and loved in the same way that they have felt for the last year and a half? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'll go to the Zoom audience and I'll come back to public comment in the room. First person in our Zoom audience, John DeFerris, Yamas.
Hi, yes, thank you very much. President Dubois and members of the board, the last few years, as far as teachers are concerned, but also students as well, of course, have been extremely tumultuous between pandemic, between, dismissing another superintendent, bringing this superintendent on board, getting a chance to get to know her, and then from what it sounds like, her dismissal without consultation to the very people that are most affected by her removal, if that is indeed the case. We went from the sweet words of congratulations last week to two board members who were retiring, to the very bitter taste of two new board members who have participated in, these closed door sessions. It leaves a really, really bad first impression. And honestly, though, it leaves an even worse impression for those existing and those continuing board members who know better. This is unacceptable behavior. The very least that we are owed is transparency. And I just want to remind you guys that the procedures are not suggestions. Those procedures that are there for how business is to be conducted by our Board of Trustees are firm expectations. And as others have also mentioned, they also have legal implications in some cases. So just to share out the disappointment, this was the absolute last thing I thought we would be talking about just before winter break. The decision is truly shocking, and that no one, like I said, who is most affected by the presence of a superintendent was consulted is really the antithesis of what is supposed to be happening in this situation. So I, urge you to rethink your course of action and to also rethink your manner of doing business, because this is unacceptable and very disappointing. I was really, really shocked to hear the news, just about the closed door sessions, much less about the potential firing of our superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Edith Salvatore.
As most of you know, I am Edith Salvatore, president of the Sequoia District Teachers Association. My comments echo the disappointment you have heard from my colleagues who have already spoken. I speak tonight based on a concern for our district and the norms by which we do business. A school district is not a business. It is a community centered on educating and supporting the young people we have a responsibility to. Our community can only be as successful as the connections we make and the trust we share. In my quarter century with the district, throughout countless ups and downs, I have always been able to count on the trust among stakeholders, between the district and its staff, between the board and the district, between the board and the greater community. Sadly, with its actions this week, this board has shown us how little they value that trust. This board has chosen secrecy over inclusion and voice. This board has chosen urgency over due process. In this moment, this board is showing us who they are. We see clearly how they will lead for the next 2 years, without input, without questions, without light. I am disappointed in our newly elected board members agreeing to closed-door meetings before they've had a chance to work with our district in their new roles and show our community in public meetings who they are and what they stand for. I am more disappointed in our continuing board members, whom I thought I could trust. There is no place for secrecy in our community, and I urge the members of this board to think of what they put at stake when they operate in the shadows as opposed to in the light. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Hopkins.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm a trustee in the Los Alamitos Elementary School District, which is one of the feeder districts for Sequoia. I sent a short email a while ago, but wanted to refer to that briefly in case you hadn't had a chance to read it. I wanted to call to express my concern about this rumored decision to ask Dr. Williams to step down. The timing of this decision, like many other speakers have said, raises major red flags for me. Doing it immediately after trustees Thompson and Sarver finished their terms suggests that they were not in agreement with this board or the board members who potentially are supporting this. And then in particular, asking trustees Nori and Koo to weigh in on this within days or even hours of their swearing in is just concerning, especially when it relates to one of the most important roles of the school board, hiring and firing the superintendent. I think you'll hear, and you've heard from many, that from the outside looking in, this decision feels really rushed and it breeds mistrust. And I hope you reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny Bloom.
Hi, my name is Jenny Varghese Bloom. I am a trustee of the Ravenswood City School District. I'm here again before this board to express my discontent with how this new board has conducted itself. I believe many people before me have already spoken and have already said how they feel. I also just want to make clear that we know 2 new board members just joined, and now they are being asked to make decisions in closed door meetings about something as important as the superintendent. And I do know that this is a decision by all board members, and we don't have that vote tally that many of us have asked for of what the vote tally was in closed session. And that is something that I believe the public should have and be able to know. I also believe that if this is a decision that the board is going to make, we need to hear from every trustee why they want to end a contract with the first female Black superintendent of the Sequoia Union High School District. Each of you represent an area, I know that, but each of you as a whole represent our whole community. This is a majority minority district, correct? This is, I believe, 48% Hispanic and maybe about 60 or a little bit more minority. And so when we think about that and we think about who our leaders are, who the people that are leading our children, who the people that are leading our community, if they look like them, that makes such a difference because they come from a perspective that we don't know. So I think that it's really important for us to consider equity and inclusion. And that is something that Dr. Williams has brought to the table. That is something she wants to see our students from the Ravenswood City School District to be on the same playing field as every student in the district. And that is something that I hope this board continues. And I will say that if this board does terminate Dr. Williams' contract, I, as a board member and a representative of my community, will have a very hard time trusting that this board will be a board that is inclusive and upholds equity. Because what it looks like to me right now is a quote that I have heard, and I'm not sure who said it, but a lot of times equality ends up feeling like oppression to the privileged. And if bringing equality into this district feels like oppression to somebody else in this district, I think that every single person needs to do a self-reflection to find out why. Because when we bring in equality, we are leveling the playing field. And we are allowing all students, no matter what their race is, what their background is, to thrive and succeed. And I will say this, I know we're talking about 2 new board members, but this is a whole board that is making a decision. And this is the president and vice president that set the agenda. So everybody needs to be held accountable. And I want to hear from you all what you think.
Thank you for your comment. Antonio Lopez.
Good evening, Board Trustees, President DuBois. My name is Antonio Lopez, council member for the city of East Palo Alto. I'm not going to rehash much of what's been said, only to echo my deep, unequivocal support for Superintendent Williams. She is truly the best fit for Sequoia, and I'm having a really hard time understanding the cadence and process of which you have brought forth this potential decision. I want to remind the board that the hiring of Dr. Williams was the culmination of a meticulous process of outreach among a wide range of stakeholders, folks in our community that were notified, advised, asked to come to the table. And I want to just echo how important that was to sowing trust, to sow healing, to sow progress in our diverse and vast district. We appreciated that honesty, that fairness, but more importantly, that transparency that was enacted in the process. And it's with that robust process in mind that we come to this meeting frankly concerned. Many of us asked the same question we did past Friday when the board swore in its new members. And I want to just give a clarification to Ms. Hopkins. It wasn't hours, it was within minutes of our new board members sworn in. Why was there a closed session for 4 hours on a Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. in December? Why the haste in a superintendent's evaluation when her contract was literally renewed a couple months ago? And more importantly, why are we here again today on a Monday night, a couple weeks before finals? We have teachers, students, administrators trying to finish off the year strong, only to potentially hear that the leadership at the top is going to be ousted away. Meetings like these only deepen the discord and distrust that we as community members, elected officials from East Palo Alto, from North Fair Oaks, from Belhaven, that we've tried to undo. We truly, I hope that at the end of tonight's meeting, that this board, this newly elected board that is less than a week old, that it continue to reflect the principles of equity and diversity written on its walls. And if we're not mistaken, this marks the first time our district's board is majority people of color. Does the board then wish to, with this historic feat, have at its legacy the firing of Sequoia's first African-American woman? Is that what each of you wish to be known for? We, of course, expect that whatever issues or concerns that you have with the superintendent, that those are addressed fairly and appropriately, but in a manner that honors the children and students that you all serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel Richards.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Rachel Richards, and I have been a chemistry and biology teacher at Menlo Atherton High School for 10 years, which I am very happy to be there and serve. I am also a resident of Menlo Park. I was moved to speak today because I was shocked and dismayed by the sudden decision by the school board to reevaluate our superintendent. She received a stellar review less than 2 months ago, and As far as I have heard, there has been no public news of any trespasses or wrongdoings committed by Dr. Williams that would warrant such hasty actions. Dr. Williams has only been our superintendent for less than 2 years, and she has not yet had a chance to reach her full potential. However, in her short time, she is well known for promoting equity and opportunities for our diverse student population, which was supposedly the same platform that our new school board members ran on. The school board is acting rashly, covertly, and without due process, 40%, which is brand new and completely inexperienced. We have worked hard to reestablish a sense of normalcy and routine for our students, parents, and community. Acting in such haste and secrecy is alarming and disconcerting to us all and will only cause undue distress for our students, who we all agree come first in this district. The alarming increase of secret board meetings over these past 2 weeks is unprecedented and unsettling. I thought this was a public high school that operated under democratic bylaws and procedures. I fear that the new board has a hidden agenda to replace the current superintendent with one that will be more in agreement with their classist views. Please prove me wrong and reestablish trust in the community that you serve by being transparent and reconsidering these inane actions, which will cause unnecessary damage and upheaval. Thank you for your time and for listening.
Thank you. Jed Bloom.
Good evening. My name is Jed Bloom. I am a parent of a student in the two students in the Ravenswood City School District, citizen of East Palo Alto. I will start by reading the words of Councilmember Lopez, who previously spoke, but I read it as a white man in solidarity with my community of color in East Palo Alto. I'm here in support of Superintendent Williams, as she is the best fit for the Sequoia Union School District. The hiring of Dr. Williams was the culmination of a meticulous process of outreach among a wide range of stakeholders. We appreciated the honesty, fairness, and not least the transparency enacted in this process. It is with the robust hiring process in mind that we come to this meeting frankly concerned. Many of us asked the same question we did this past Friday, when the board swore in its new members and then immediately proceeded to a 4-hour closed session. Why? Why the haste in the superintendent's evaluation when her contract was renewed a couple months ago? Why a meeting this Monday night? Meetings like these only deepen the discord and distrust that we have tried to undo. We hope that at the end of tonight's meeting that this board, this newly elected board, continue to reflect the principles of equity and diversity written on your walls. If we are not mistaken, this marks the first time our district's board is majority people of color. Does the board wish to, with this historic feat, have as its legacy the firing of Sequoia's first African-American woman? Is that what each of you wish to be known for? We expect that whatever issues or concerns you have with the superintendent be addressed fairly and appropriately, but in a manner that honors the children and students you serve. And thank you again, Councilmember Lopez, for those words. I was just thinking tonight, what do I want to say in this short period of time? And the word that kept coming to mind is violence. Of course you're racist, but you're violent. You are people of violence if you chose to terminate Dr. Williams's contract. You are people of violence because you snuff out Black life in the same way your ancestors snuffed out Black life. You elevate whiteness in the same way your ancestors elevated whiteness. You denigrate and destroy Black and brown bodies in the same way your ancestors did the same. I don't have any skin in the games to talk about trust. I'm not a teacher in the district. I'm a concerned parent of a child who will eventually be in the Sequoia Union School District, but that is all I can think to say, is that you are people of violence. You uphold white supremacy. It is unhinged. It is uncalled for. It is inappropriate. And you feel like you just bear no consequence. I'm disgusted. And yes, I want you to think about that. That not only are you clearly racist, but you are people of violence. Thank you.
Thank you. Ellen Jacobson.
Hi, my name is Ellen Jacobson, and I'm a teacher at Menlo Atherton High School. And I appreciate the board taking the time to listen to me. I just went through this at my synagogue and where they ousted the rabbi, and it left me feeling the same way I'm feeling today. Like everybody has spoken about transparency, I wish the board would be a bit more transparent. But in today's throwaway paper, the Palo Alto Daily, I believe it was, there was an article about the superintendent hiring a lawyer, about the school district hiring a lawyer, and there's rumors going around. And I think for me, as not only a teacher, an alum, but soon to be parent of 2 incoming freshmen, these rumors need to be cleared because they're damaging. And if they're true, there needs to be the transparency. And I can appreciate that there may be things you cannot share with the community, but you need to be a bit more transparent. Having 2 closed door sessions back to back, having 2 new board members come in, how subjective can they be? If there is hardcore evidence that some wrongdoing has transpired, address that. But there are rumors going around, and they're pretty thick. So I would implore the board to squash these rumors. It already feels like it's a done deal, which has implications in of itself, that there's no turning back from this. And your community, your voters, the people who elected you will think about this next time you're up for re-election. It's just leaving a very bad taste in a lot of people's mouths right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Rajesh Philippos.
The guy before me was like, you guys are violent. You're racist.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rajesh Philippos. I'm a resident and voter of East Palo Alto. I would like to understand why the board is hiring a lawyer regarding evaluating our superintendent. Why is this process not open to the public? If there are issues with the superintendent, I would allow that this is worked out in public, as this board is accountable to the public. The superintendent has pushed for equity and inclusivity in the Sequoia High School District. I want to ensure that Dr. Williams gets a fair shake, and I want to ensure that there is transparency about the hiring or firing of the superintendent. Please consider equity, fairness, and justice while making decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy Array.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I just wanted to say I can't speak to why Dr. Williams was fired, but I can say that as one of the few staff members of color, one of the few Black males working in this district, her background and profession and her professional conduct and consideration gave me some hope that the district was moving in the right direction in terms of equity. And the way things are being handled tonight without full transparency is not the best way to run an organization. It's not a great way to get started to gain trust from the community. And it's creating rumors that damage the community. And it's also a reminder why people of color ultimately leave the school system. It also goes against the district policy 415, which talks about promoting the employment and retention of a diverse staff that reflects the student demographics of the community. And this is not what retention looks like. These actions also remind me of concepts such as racial triangulation and how communities of color are divided against one another, and how taking away diversity and leadership that pushes equity forward ultimately makes the school system worse off and prepares our students less for the real world. School's not just about taking AP classes, getting into big name colleges for bragging rights. It's not just to earn a piece of paper. It's also about the unique experience of diversity that gets a person out of their comfort zone and prepares them to actually interact and work with diverse members of the community in a positive way. I worked in business before my role here at the district, and I can tell you, because I've worked all over the Bay Area, dozens of stores, dozens of businesses. If we don't focus on diversity, we're setting our children up for failure later on in life when they have to work real jobs in society. I interviewed and trained the kids who don't have diverse experience, and they have a really hard time. They might do well on paper, but when it comes to the intangibles of social interaction, they truly suffer. So this is bigger than that. A few questions I wanted to ask. As BIPOC staff, it makes us uncomfortable to work for a district knowing that the superintendent was removed in a closed session. where votes are hidden? Are you going to actually reveal who voted to remove her so that we can have an honest insight into the views and mentalities of the members of the board? And do we actually have an honest platform for bringing our concerns, or will we face retaliation if we're genuine and honest about our experience as BIPOC staff and students in the district? And are you supportive of equity work financially and economically, and in terms of giving power to BIPOC groups who want to improve the performance of various groups in our school system? Are we going to see new policies and more paid roles in equity for BIPOC staff that create the power to get things done to change our school system for the better? Or are we going to see a regression of the progress we've made in equity in terms of funding the work and creating paid roles? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Eva Tang.
Testing, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Rich. Hi, Shanice. It's been a long time. Very belated happy birthday to Shanice. We apparently go to the same gym. We should be squat partners sometime. I go on Sundays. But I wish I was here on good terms, but I'm not often called in fair weather. And so you probably know what I'm about to comment on. And it's really disturbing to have a completely new, or I mean, not completely new board vote on an issue such as the evaluation of a superintendent days after they're swearing in. And for them to be consulting lawyers minutes after they're swearing in, which, speaking of, are you anticipating getting sued? Because that sounds like a very, very wasteful use of public funds. And being a teacher at East Palo Alto Academy, where we have all minority students, it has been heartening to have Superintendent Williams, somebody who champions measures that make my job easier, honestly, because I feel like I'm fighting multiple systems every single day. And for you to be secretly removing her shows me what kind of board you really are. It's not a great first impression. And as the kids would say, it is sus. Another thing that I want to point out is you've got a lot of upset people here tonight. This is not a great way to make a first impression. And you are going to have a very, very long rest of your terms if this pans out the way that we think it's going to pan out. I hope that this new board will continue the work that the old board was doing in championing measures to make sure that all students are taken care of so that they can learn at a higher level and they can grow to become contributing members of our community. But at this moment, it is not looking great for us. So I hope that you take this ship and you steer it in the direction that we have been forward in terms of equity, in terms of our BIPOC staff, our BIPOC students, because we really need a win after this pandemic. Thank you. I yield my time to the president.
Thank you. Carlos Asuna.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I served as student trustee in the last year. And this is not how I expected to return. I was actually planning on being at a meeting sometime over one of my breaks, and still do, assuming all goes well. But, well, frankly, I don't know what to think of this situation. I read a post on Facebook and make fun of me, if you will, for being a Gen Z person on Facebook. But talking about this, and I thought I had to join, and I'll say this, the board that I left and passed on to my successors as student trustee was a very honest one, a very open one, and one that I was very proud to have worked with for a year. I forged great relationships with the members. I'm even friends on Facebook with some of the members, and I respect them greatly. And it is for that reason that I do have some sympathy, if you can say sympathy, for the situation they're in now. But I struggle to understand the smoke and mirrors of the situation. I mean, I took time out of my study session in college for finals to be here because this is a district that my sister is in, my other one will be in one day. This is a district that's, as somebody mentioned earlier, I think a majority people of color. And now, which is great, majority of its board are people of color. But I haven't heard another student speak here, and I'm no longer a student of this district, but I just wanted to provide a young voice here. I hope there are some that come after me, but I just urge you all to do the right thing. I know you all can, and I know you're all people of integrity, and sometimes people of integrity have to make tough calls, and sometimes unpopular decisions have to be reached, but I truly and honestly don't think this is one of them. Dr. Williams is also a person of integrity and a person that I greatly, greatly respect. So to sum up, I have faith in the members I know to do the right thing. For the new members, I know you can do the right thing. I know that you were put in a very hard situation right off the bat. And I'm not interested in blame, but I just hope that you all are able to listen to your constituents, to your peers, and do what needs to be done in order to satisfy and to do the right thing for this community.
Thank you. Heather?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Heather Starnes Logwood, and I'm the executive director of Live in Peace. I live in East Palo Alto. And I interact with the district with our program that looks at 80 of the least likely to graduate. And I am gravely concerned about what's happening here. And I am hoping that there's some other explanation, that rather than a rushed, forced decision here. I am I'm hoping that there's some other reason that you're meeting, that there's some other outcome that you're planning on. But to think that there would be this type of rushed decision-making around somebody who has not exhibited negative behaviors as a whole. Obviously, we don't know everything, but we did watch the superintendent prior to this basically tear down many, many years of work for multiple different organizations, and people sat by and worked with her. And so then it comes to this situation and it begins to smack of racism. And I pray to God that is not who we voted in. That is not who we have called friends or co-workers. And I hope to God that another thing is that there are times that we have gone too far. And this is maybe a time, and I know that there is a chance to reverse it and to rethink it and to do things orderly and to do things in the open. For many reasons, as somebody in East Palo Alto who's lived here for over 35 years, there has never been a time where it felt like, gosh, things might be changing. And for this to happen like this, it is a slap in the face of the many years that this community has sat and watched as over and over and over they've been overlooked and their voice has been unheard. And finally, how are we going to expect the young people that we are educating to do things in order, to do things that are unracist, to do things that are right, and do it in a fashion that is open and honest, if we don't do it ourselves? So if by chance you got here by mistake, if by chance you went too far, I suggest pull yourself back. I suggest take a moment and unpack where the heck how you got here, because we do not agree with this.
Thank you. Peter O'Tay.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
My name is Peter Audi. I am a civics teacher at East Palo Alto Academy. This board has lost trust, and what is almost more disappointing is that many of the new members ran on transparency. It's especially disappointing to see so many closed door meetings. And while I understand there needs to be discretion when making personnel decisions, it's concerning the secrecy which you guys are currently working under. The board should think hard about how to restore the trust in our community. And as a member or as an employee of the district, I have felt in the past that this body has listened. And since the pandemic, I am not so sure I could say the same today. Dr. Williams has shown leadership in leading important dialogue that is necessary and has been responsive to stakeholders. I hope this board can truly change its current trajectory, and I will yield my time.
Thank you. Rob Palos?
I'm a teacher and coach at Sequoia High School, and I just want to echo some of the patterns that I'm hearing on the previous discussions on why this hasty move, why this ridiculous timing after having already approved this person to continue on in their job, why this churn of superintendents when you need stability in a district, and why the heck would we have 4 closed committee meetings this close to each other, one right after the other? It looks horrible. It looks like either you don't know what you're doing or you don't want anybody else to know what you're doing. None of that is a good look at a time when we desperately need to be coming together and working on these things. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. I'm only going to take, there's 2 more hands up in Zoom, and then I have 1 card from the live audience. So I'm going to stop with public comments after the next 3 speakers. So I invite Maurice Goodman.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to start by saying I agree 100% with every speaker, and I say every speaker because there has not been one speaker that spoke against Dr. Williams and retained there as superintendent. To Chris and Allen, thank you for your words of support of Dr. Williams as 2 of 5 only qualified members of any board, past or present, to evaluate the superintendent. You are true stewards of the Sequoia Union High School District. Dr. Williams has and continues to be the epitome of leadership, grace, and a community building advocate for improving access and opportunities for all Sequoia students of all backgrounds, with an unapologetic focus on BIPOC students. Her dismissal will have not just a dramatic impact on our students, their families, faculty, and staff, but the greater Sequoia educational community, including many partnerships. I respectfully implore the board to reject any action that will result in the dismissal of Dr. Williams, the first Black female superintendent entrusted with guiding this district through the challenging racial awakening, sweeping across our country, and the attacks on equity in education. To the new trustees, I provide the following as a former K-12 elected trustee, a current board trustee for the Community College District, and a member of the NAACP. You were elected to serve as independent voices and as stewards with political courage, not as political pawns. It is that courage I ask that you use tonight, rejecting any action to remove Dr. Williams. And remember, just because you can does not mean you should. Do not let this be the action you are known for. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Cecilia Taylor.
Good evening. I am not sure what you are feeling at this moment, but it feels as if there is an element of, I know what's best for you. I wrote a letter to the board on February 5th, 2021. Dear Board President, Trustee, and Superintendent, the health and wellness of our community lies in the proper education of our youth. The COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare the reality of racial and social economic divide in our high school district that has existed for decades. We cannot continue to limit our children's future because we may be afraid of change. Uncomfortable conversations need to happen at all levels of education and leadership. The Sequoia Union High School District has a documented history of systemic exclusion and failure to serve all. It will continue to take a collective effort to address issues of representation and distribution of resources. I am truly grateful for our new high school district seat on the board and the commitment of the board on issues of equity. I know systemic issues will remain unless we take action by working together, creating space for the necessary conversations about discriminatory practices in the district and focusing ultimately on what's best for all our students. Now, Resolution 1699, which was adopted by the board on October 15, 2021, under Dr. Williams' leadership. Whereas the Sequoia Union High School District Board of Education reaffirms its commitment to providing safe, welcoming, and affirming space for all students, staff, families, and community members, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, religion, sexual identity or orientation, ability or disability, country of origin, or any other identity, category, or characteristic. Whereas the Board of Education emphatically declares racism and hate has no place in our schools or our society, and we must protect the constitutional rights of every person who lives, works, and learns in our community. I encourage you all to read this. Whereas systemic racism and racial oppression have a long-led physical, political, legal, economic, and environmental harm on people of color in the United States. Feeling and being in a room full of racism has given people heart attacks in our society. People's lives are cut short based on that. So I encourage you to look at your own adoption, your own policies, your own practices, your own procedures, and be the true leader that you were voted to be. Good night.
Thank you. I'm going to take the last speaker, and I apologize for those of you who put up your hands after I called time. So the last speaker is W.E. Howard. Oh, yes. For those of you who are not able to speak, please email the board. And that's board@seq.org. Thank you. Shanice.
Some of you know me as Ndume. Who loves the board more than me? Who loves the school district more than me? I went to Menlo Atherton, Bear Claw, Menlo Atherton. I went to Ravenswood. Shouldn't have never closed it. I was a Ravenswood Trojan. I've been here. I'm still here. I'm in my 4th decade at Sequoia Union High School District. But what I'm saying it's trying to go back to what it was. I was here when you might have to go to the archives. I was here when Dr. Harry Reynolds was here. Dr. Harry Reynolds was an Afro-American man, and he was a superintendent here. He eventually left. They put enough pressure on him that he left. You know, he had a lot of pressure. He did real good, I think, at San Jose Unified, or one of the school districts down in San Jose. So I've seen the whole gauntlet. I've seen it from the days that I laid down in front of a school bus because the Afro-Americans and the Hispanics didn't have school bus. But right around the corner from MMA over in Atherton and Linwood, you know, our parents paid the same taxes. They had school buses, we didn't. Our kids had to walk in the rain. I laid down in front of a school bus. Now, mind you, if that bus had kept coming, I might have got up, I don't know. But the media was there. So we ended up with school buses. Transparency is so important. Trust is so important. And if you don't have transparency, you got a hidden agenda. It's going to come out sooner or later. Dr. Harry Reynolds, she deserved that. The students deserve that. What a Merry Christmas.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate you all being here and speaking. The board will adjourn to closed session. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and vote. We are live. Oops. I'm doing wrong. Okay. For this meeting, the board has nothing to report out. I do need to make a clarification from our last meeting. I should have done a board vote count for hiring the attorney, Eugene Whitlock. That vote was 4 in favor and 1 opposed. But there's nothing to report out from tonight's meeting. Thank you all, and we will see you on Wednesday.